Emily Carter's fight against the corporate takeover of food. Emily stood outside Sunset Diner, staring at the neon sign that had once symbolized everything she had fought for. She could still remember the first night she took over, the way the place felt suffocating under the weight of old corruption, how she had fought tooth and nail to rebuild it, to turn it into a beacon of fairness and integrity. Now, the glow of the sign reflected in her eyes, but instead of relief, all she felt was the mounting pressure of the battle ahead. She had won before, but could she do it again against an enemy this powerful? The air was crisp, the distant hum of traffic blending with the murmurs of customers inside. She had won battles before, taken down Titan Foods, exposed corruption, and inspired a movement, but deep down, she knew the war wasn't over. Victory, after all, doesn't mean the fight is finished. It only means the enemy changes. Emily Carter had taken down Titan Foods, exposed the corruption in the food industry, and sparked a movement for ethical dining. But she had no idea that her biggest battle was yet to come. Her enemies hadn't disappeared, they had evolved. This time, Emily isn't just fighting for her restaurants. She's fighting for the future of the entire food industry. Stay until the end for the moment when Emily makes the most difficult decision of her life. A greater conspiracy, the true enemy reveals itself. After the council fell, Emily thought the industry was finally changing. Independent restaurants started thriving, young chefs dared to break the mold, and Sunset Diner Academy became the go-to training ground for ethical restaurant management. But she was wrong. The corporate giants weren't giving up. Instead, they were silently building something new, something far more dangerous. They introduced a new AI-driven restaurant model, eliminating human staff, cutting costs, and maximizing profits. Across the country, fast food chains were already experimenting with fully automated kitchens and cashier-free service. Customers were being conditioned to order from kiosks, interact with AI chatbots, and accept food served by robotic arms rather than humans. This was no longer a futuristic concept. It was happening now, and Future Foods was determined to make it the norm. These restaurants promised efficiency, speed, and convenience, but at what cost? The soul of the food industry, hospitality and human connection, was being erased. They lobbied for policy changes, pushing regulations that favored megacorporations while choking out small restaurants. These laws increased licensing fees, enforced unrealistic operational standards, and created a bureaucratic nightmare that only corporate-backed restaurants could afford to navigate. They manipulated the market, controlling food supply chains, online reviews, and shaping consumer behavior to drive independent businesses out. Through exclusive contracts, they forced food distributors to prioritize large chains, leaving small restaurants struggling with unreliable suppliers and skyrocketing costs. A new villain emerges, the CEO of Future Foods, a mastermind unlike any Emily had faced before. He had already crushed smaller restaurant chains by undercutting their suppliers, luring away their top talent with promises of higher pay, and using AI-driven analytics to predict and control consumer demand. A family-owned diner in Chicago had mysteriously shut down overnight after their landlord, coincidentally a Future Foods investor, terminated their lease without warning. Another beloved bistro in Los Angeles found itself buried in legal fees after a sudden wave of health code violations appeared out of nowhere. Future Foods didn't just compete, it eliminated. A beloved mom-and-pop cafe in Boston, known for its homemade pies and warm customer service, mysteriously lost its lease after a large sum was funneled to the property owner from an undisclosed corporate account. A farm-to-table restaurant in Austin found itself unable to source key ingredients when every major distributor suddenly cut ties, all citing contractual conflicts that suspiciously favored Future Foods. These weren't just business failures. They were orchestrated shutdowns designed to erase competition entirely. While Titan Foods relied on brute force and intimidation, this CEO was different, a cold strategist who operated in the shadows, manipulating the industry from behind the scenes. He didn't threaten openly. He made problems disappear. He controlled media narratives, influenced policymakers and orchestrated takeovers with surgical precision. If Titan Foods had been a storm, Future Foods was a chess master, always 10 steps ahead. The world's most powerful food conglomerate and a mastermind behind this operation. Unlike Titan Foods, which relied on brute force, Future Foods played the long game, strategic, calculating, and nearly untouchable. The more Emily investigated, the darker the picture became. This wasn't just about restaurants anymore. This was about reshaping how people experience food altogether. If Future Foods succeeded, small restaurants would become extinct, the food supply chain would be monopolized, and the very culture of dining would be reduced to nothing more than a soulless transaction. Emily realized she wasn't just facing a single corrupt company anymore. She was up against an entire system built to crush people like her. And this time, it wasn't just about saving her restaurants. It was about saving the industry itself. A tempting offer, the deal that could change everything. One night, Emily was invited to a private meeting at Future Foods headquarters. She walked into a sleek, high-rise office, greeted by a man whose influence extended beyond food, a man with power in politics, finance, and technology. The room was vast, almost intimidating in its grandeur. The walls were lined with awards, framed photos of world leaders, and displays of Future Foods' latest technological advancements. A holographic screen projected financial graphs showing exponential growth, while a robotic assistant served her a glass of meticulously aged wine. Every detail was designed to impress, to remind Emily that she was standing in the heart of an empire unlike any she had encountered before. Ms. Carter, you've proven that you can change the industry. But you're just one person. Let's build something bigger, together. His voice was calm, confident, dripping with the arrogance of a man who had never heard the word no. He slid a contract across the polished glass table, tapping the folder lightly as if sealing an inevitable agreement. They wanted Emily to join them in designing the future of dining, a future with no chefs, no servers, just automation and AI-driven efficiency. If she accepted, she could lead the transition and ensure it was done the right way. But there was more. Future Foods wasn't just offering a partnership. They were offering her dominion. She wouldn't just run a chain of restaurants. She would control an empire. With her influence, Future Foods would phase out traditional restaurants altogether, replacing them with high-tech, AI-driven dining experiences that could cater to millions without a single human worker. You'll have full control over implementation, he continued smoothly. No more battling outdated regulations. No more struggling for suppliers. We will handle the logistics. You just bring your expertise. Emily hesitated, her fingers brushing the sleek folder before her. If she signed, she could rewrite the industry on her terms. Or so they wanted her to believe. She flipped open the contract, scanning the fine print. Hidden beneath the legal jargon were clauses designed to strip away her control piece by piece. She wouldn't be leading. She'd be a figurehead. Her name would be attached, but the decisions would be made elsewhere by people who saw food as nothing more than a commodity. This isn't just about efficiency, she said, her voice steady. This is about replacing people. Chef, servers, the entire culture of dining. The CEO smiled, unbothered. It's about progress. You of all people should understand that. She did understand, and that was exactly why she couldn't sign. Emily leaned back, exhaling slowly. You talk about progress, she said, measuring her words. But what happens to the people who've dedicated their lives to this industry? The chefs who create, the servers who build relationships, the families who pass down recipes for generations? Do they just disappear? They adapt, he said smoothly, or they get left behind. Silence stretched between them. The city lights flickered outside the window, a cold contrast to the fire burning in Emily's chest. This wasn't just about business anymore. This was about the soul of an industry, about the very fabric of what made food a universal experience. This wasn't just about saving Sunset Diner anymore. This was about shaping the future of food itself. She looked up, meeting the CEO's calm, knowing gaze. He wasn't asking. He was expecting. If she joined them, she could influence the system from within. But if she refused, she would become the #1 enemy of the most powerful food empire on the planet. She closed the contract, pushing it back across the table. For a moment, she let the weight of her decision sink in, feeling the tension thick in the air. Her pulse steadied, her grip on the chair tightening as she met the CEO's gaze. "I'm not for sale." Her voice was calm but unshakable, the finality of her words hanging between them like a silent declaration of war. The CEO's smile faltered for the first time that evening. The weight of her decision settled in the air between them. A beat of silence. Then, with a slow nod, he took a sip of his wine, as if her rejection had been nothing more than an interesting twist in a long game he had already planned out. "Then I suppose," he murmured, his voice cool and measured, "you leave me no choice." Emily knew that was a warning, and she also knew the real battle was only just beginning. She took a deep breath, steadying herself against the weight of what was coming. This wasn't just about her restaurants anymore. It was about the soul of an entire industry. The road ahead would be brutal. Smear campaigns, betrayals, and battles fought in boardrooms and courts instead of kitchens. But she had come too far to back down now. If Future Foods thought she would roll over, they had underestimated her. With fire in her heart and resolve in her bones, she braced for war. Betrayal from within, the ones who turned against her. Emily wasn't just facing external enemies. She was facing betrayal from those closest to her. Some of her allies began to waver. They believed that Future Foods was inevitable and that technology couldn't be stopped. Some of them saw AI-driven restaurants as the future and questioned whether Emily was resisting progress. They feared being left behind and started slowly pulling away, distancing themselves from her movement. Some former activists switched sides, realizing that if they didn't comply, they'd be wiped out. These were people who once fought alongside Emily, but now saw more benefit in aligning with power. They rationalized their choices, telling themselves that it was better to be on the inside, even if it meant compromising their principles. One of Emily's most trusted employees, someone she considered family, betrayed her, leaking insider information to Future Foods. This wasn't just a business move. It was personal, shaking Emily's trust in those around her. She had shared her vision, her struggles, and her dreams with this person, only to realize they had been feeding her enemies information for months. The media turned on her again, launching a full-scale smear campaign. News outlets ran headlines accusing her of being anti-technology and standing in the way of progress. Social media influencers, many of whom were sponsored by Future Foods, flooded platforms with messages pushing the idea that Emily's resistance was outdated and selfish. Well-placed articles painted her as an extremist, someone clinging to a dying industry, while corporate-backed food bloggers conveniently praised the efficiency of AI-driven restaurants. The narrative was being rewritten, and Emily was being cast as the villain, portraying Emily as a technophobe fighting against progress. Articles surfaced labeling her movement as anti-innovation, framing her as someone who was clinging to a dying industry rather than adapting. TV pundits debated whether Emily's vision for ethical dining was outdated, and social media was flooded with comments branding her a dinosaur unwilling to evolve. Financial backers pulled out. Investors who once believed in Emily's cause began reconsidering, wary of going against the unstoppable force of Future Foods. Some were threatened with legal action or blacklisted by suppliers, forcing them to withdraw their support. False scandals emerged. Suddenly, reports surfaced accusing Emily's restaurants of health violations, mistreatment of employees, and even financial fraud. None of it was true, but the accusations alone were enough to damage her credibility and plant doubt in the minds of the public. Internal divisions grew. Some of Emily's remaining supporters began questioning her approach. Should they compromise? Should they adopt some level of automation to survive? The unity she had fought so hard to build was now crumbling under the weight of fear and doubt. Emily had never felt so alone. She thought back to the early days of Sunset Diner, when her team rallied around her, sharing late-night laughs over coffee and celebrating small victories like a busy weekend shift or a heartfelt customer review. The camaraderie had made the struggle worth it. But now, as she sat in the silence of her office, surrounded by resignation letters and unanswered messages, those memories felt like they belonged to another lifetime. The warmth was gone, replaced by the cold reality that she was standing at the edge of a battle she might have to fight alone. The people she trusted most were either abandoning her, turning against her, or being manipulated into submission. The fight had never felt this insurmountable. One night, after another unexpected loss, she sat alone in her office, staring at a pile of resignation letters from employees who no longer believed in her cause. Was she fighting a losing battle? Was she the only one still clinging to the past? Then, she noticed a small envelope tucked beneath the pile. It was a handwritten note from a young chef at one of her restaurants, a quiet employee who had never spoken much but had always worked diligently. "You taught me that food is about more than just business. It's about people. I still believe in that. And I still believe in you." Emily felt a lump form in her throat. She had lost so much, but she hadn't lost everything. The battle wasn't over. Not yet. The hardest choice of her life. After sleepless nights and countless meetings, Emily stood at a crossroads. She had three choices: join Future Foods and change the system from within, accepting that the future was moving toward automation. Fight against them, risking everything she had built, knowing she could be completely crushed. Find a third path, a way to integrate technology while preserving human values. She knew that no matter which path she chose, there would be consequences. The weight of the entire industry's future sat heavily on her shoulders. If she aligned with Future Foods, she could try to steer its course from the inside, ensuring that at least some human elements remained in the rapidly evolving food industry. But could she really trust them? Could she maintain her integrity while working within a system that viewed human labor as expendable? If she chose to fight, she was putting everything on the line: her restaurants, her employees, her reputation. Future Foods had already proven its power through intimidation, manipulation, and sabotage. Going head-to-head with them meant stepping onto a battlefield where she was vastly outnumbered and outfunded. They had entire legal teams, political connections, and billions of dollars in corporate backing. What did she have? Passion, determination, and a belief in the people she served. Or was there another way? A way to embrace innovation while ensuring that the soul of hospitality wasn't lost? Could she create a new movement, one that used technology ethically rather than replacing human workers with it? It was a daunting idea, but one that sparked something inside her. The third option wasn't just about survival. It was about redefining the industry itself. And Emily knew she couldn't make this decision alone. She gathered the people who still believed in her: the chefs, the servers, the small restaurant owners who had joined her cause. They met in a dimly lit back room of Sunset Diner, the place where it all began. Tension filled the air, but so did hope. "This isn't just my decision," Emily told them. "This is our fight. The industry is changing whether we like it or not. But we get to decide what kind of future we build." Some faces in the room showed doubt, others determination. But one by one, voices rose in agreement. "This industry isn't just about food," a young chef spoke up. "It's about people, about tradition, about connection. We can't let that be erased." Would they surrender? Would they accept the future dictated by corporations? Or would they stand together and create a future where corporations couldn't dictate how food and hospitality should be run? The choice was no longer just Emily's. It belonged to everyone who still believed in what made dining an art, not just a transaction. And together, they made their decision. Emily took a step forward, her voice firm yet filled with conviction. "This is bigger than just one restaurant. This is about our future, about our right to create, to serve, to connect. If we don't stand up now, who will?" A hush fell over the room, followed by the murmurs of agreement growing louder. Then, one by one, voices rose strong, resolute. "We fight," someone called out. "For every small restaurant, for every chef, for every server who refuses to be replaced by a machine." The energy in the room shifted. This wasn't just defiance. It was the beginning of a movement. and they were ready to take their stand. The dawn of a new era. As the city lights shimmered outside her office window, Emily took a deep breath, letting the weight of the past battles sink in. She wasn't just a restaurant owner anymore. She was a movement leader, a symbol of resistance against an industry that had forgotten its humanity. Future Foods had money, technology, and power. They had teams of lawyers, politicians in their pockets, and an endless stream of resources to drown out opposition. But Emily had something they could never buy. People who believed in her vision, people who weren't willing to let a corporate machine strip the soul from dining. Her phone buzzed on the desk. Another message. Another restaurant owner reaching out. Another worker seeking guidance. The resistance was growing. This wasn't just about Sunset Diner anymore. It was about everyone who had been told they were replaceable. The human touch in food service was obsolete. She turned her gaze to the window, watching the city below. Somewhere out there, Future Foods was already working on its next move. But so was she. And she knew one thing for sure. This revolution was just getting started. The question now was, who would stand with her? Would people fight for the future of food, or allow corporations to strip away everything that made dining human? The choice wasn't just hers anymore. It belonged to everyone who believed in something greater than profit. Lessons from Emily Carter's story. Emily Carter's journey teaches us that true change is never easy. It requires courage, resilience, and a willingness to stand up against overwhelming odds. The battle she fought was not just for herself, but for every small business owner, every chef, and every worker who refused to be erased by corporate greed. Her story is a testament to the power of integrity, perseverance, and the belief that one person can ignite a movement. Key takeaways. Integrity over convenience. It's easy to compromise when the pressure is high, but staying true to your values is what creates lasting impact. Emily refused to sell out, even when offered wealth and power, because she knew that true success comes from doing what's right, not what's easy. The power of community. No battle is won alone. When people unite for a shared cause, even the strongest corporate giants can be challenged. Emily didn't just fight alone. She rallied restaurant owners, workers, and customers to stand up against the soulless automation of the food industry. Innovation versus exploitation. Technology should enhance human experiences, not replace them. Progress must be ethical, ensuring that people aren't cast aside in the pursuit of efficiency. Future Foods sought to eliminate human workers, but Emily fought to prove that technology and human connection could coexist without sacrificing jobs and tradition. Fighting for what matters. Whether it's food, business, or any other industry, the fight against soulless corporations is a fight for culture, tradition, and human connection. The essence of dining is not just in the meal itself, but in the warmth of service, the craftsmanship of chefs, and the stories shared across the table. Emily's battle was about preserving those fundamental values. Courage in the face of impossible odds. When it seemed like the entire world had turned against her, Emily stood firm. She lost allies, faced betrayals, and had her reputation attacked, but she never gave in. True leaders rise not in times of comfort, but in times of adversity. Emily stood against an empire that sought to erase the heart of an industry. But this isn't just her story. It's a battle that is happening in the real world. Corporate monopolies continue to strip industries of their humanity, replacing passion with profit-driven efficiency. Would you fight for this future? Would you stand up for the people behind the food, the workers, the artisans, the communities built around dining and service? Or would you allow corporations to dictate what remains and what is lost? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe to Toch Story. If you believe in the power of storytelling, resilience, and standing up for what's right, subscribe to Toch Story today. Hit the notification bell to never miss an inspiring story that challenges the way we see the world. Together, we can make a difference. One voice, one choice, one act of defiance at a time.